My friends, I want you to be aware of a couple things, and that is, what can you do now that this documentary has come out? Well, one of them is we have to refute the lies by the fake news media. We'll do that in just a minute. One of the other things you can do is get a pen and paper right now. Get a pen and paper right now. Because today on our radio show, we announced the breaking news that every member of Congress has now received in their office an email with a link to watch Absolute Proof. Again, the new documentary released Friday morning. Executive directors, executive producers, myself, Mike Lindell, Mary Fanning. We produced this and filmed it in 6 days. 3 days of filming, 3 days of post-editing right here in our WVW studios. Has had close to or over 70 million views in those 4 days. Now, we know it has been airing on One America News, and I want to thank One America News for their courage and for airing this all day Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and again today. But my friends, we now know that the members of Congress who haven't seen it certainly can have an opportunity to do that, because we are told today that, well, this has been sent to every member of Congress in the House and the Senate via email. So now what we believe the American people must do is hold our elected officials accountable. My friends, these elected officials work for us. We are a constitutional republic. We're a representative republic, meaning we elect those who represent us in Washington. But our founding documents make it very clear that we are a government of the people, by the people, and for the people. They work for us. We are not their slaves. They answer directly to us. In fact, the Declaration of Independence, which laid the foundation for the Constitution, says that after a long period of duress, if you cannot work out your problems, not minor problems, not light problems, but if you cannot work out serious problems, then men, because of the laws of nature and nature's God, the laws of the divine, which are the same for all people and times and places, we have a right ordained by God with individual rights and liberties to alter, abolish, or recreate a government. And my friends, that's what our constitutional republic gives us the right to do. That's not something we take lightly, nor is it something we want to see happen in a violent way. We want to see Americans come together and agree that we want free and fair elections. If your candidate loses, we'll be good losers, not sore losers, and fight harder next time. Is that not something we can all agree on, whether you're a Republican, a Democrat, or independent? We should fight this out in the courts. We should fight it out on the floors of our legislatures in our 50 states. We should fight it out in the House of Representatives, on the floor of the U.S. Senate, and when necessary, in our courts, as I've said. We do not want to see America divided. America does not need another civil war. Anyone wishing that or hoping for that doesn't understand the horrors of a civil war and what it will do to your family and to this nation. So my friends, we're asking through this documentary that we did not make as a political documentary. We had someone that was wearing a political hat. We asked them to take it off and replace it with something not political. We had someone that was wearing a political pin. We asked them to take it off. Why? Because this documentary was not about poking a stick in the eye of, well, those who might be in a different party than us or you. It was about saying, can Republicans and Democrats agree that we want free and fair elections? And I think that's what this documentary shows. So with that, I'm asking Republicans and Democrats, have you watched the video? Will you share it with others at wvwtv.com/proof? But will you call your member of Congress? Ask them if they've watched it. Tell them you want an email back from them, or you want a written letter documenting that they watched it, and you'd like their feedback on what they saw. If you're afraid to identify yourself, well, isn't that sad? Doesn't that say a lot about where we find ourselves in America today? But if you're not afraid to identify yourself, maybe leave your email address, leave your mailing address, and demand a letter from your representative, your U.S. Senator who works for you. Ask them, will you email me with your thoughts about the documentary? Or will you write me a letter? So here is the number I would like you to take down. And tomorrow, or if you're watching this now during the day as it's being, again, broadcast live tonight, Monday night, February 8th. If you're watching it in the future, and it's during normal business hours, you can call the House of Representatives at 202-225-3121. That's 202-225-3121. You have one U.S. House of Representative member. You're represented by one member of the U.S. House. Okay? You live in a congressional district, you have one. But you're represented, as many of you already know, by 2 U.S. senators. But I know many of you, some of you, you've been awakened, and this is really your first foray into understanding how it works. What many Americans are now clearly awake that were not before. So a little civics lesson if you've forgotten. You have 1 representative in the House, you have 2 U.S. senators. The number for the House, 202-225-3121. The number for the U.S. Senate, 202-224-3121. 202-224-3121. Let them know you want a response. Then, my friends, I believe we need to start focusing on our states. We're hearing that there is the desire to federalize the U.S. elections. Federalize them. That's a real problem. Right now, each election is overseen by the Secretary of State of your respective state. So, my friends, we need to be on guard for the idea and the attempt to federalize our U.S. elections. They're already wanting to federalize our national police force, turn our local police, our sheriffs, and federalize them. I don't know about you, but I don't want to live in a police state. And I certainly don't want to live in a nation where our U.S. elections, our federal elections, are run by the federal government. They need to stay with the states, your Secretary of State. Which brings us to the point, do you even know who is your U.S. Secretary of State? It's time for the American people to become informed about such offices and just how important they are. A few years ago, George Soros put together the Secretary of State's Project. The Secretary of State's Project, where I'm told, and I've read, and we've seen documented, he worked to make sure that certain key swing states had his people with the worldview of George Soros and the progressives in that office of Secretary of State in certain states. It's time to run candidates who believe in free and fair elections for your Secretary of your respective state. How about your governor? Now this points out the importance of a good governor as well as an attorney general. Now to do all this, we have to have free and fair elections. That again is why it's so important that people watch Absolute Proof. We have got to go to a paper system, ballots, and there has to be a local counting of each ballot, not where they are left and the custody is broken, but where they're counted and totaled right there at your polling place by paper and then reported. And this must be done with a strong paper trail that has strong custody, as discussed in the documentary. But my friends, what we're talking about here is the 10th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution. The 10th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution states that the powers the federal government has are limited and expressed, and the unlisted powers belong to the states and respective people thereof. We, again, are a government of the people, by the people, for the people. Our founding fathers gave us a constitutional republic. In fact, one of them said, "We've given you that if you can keep it."